How do you get successful results? A well-planned long-term goals, budgets, and timelines. Very important, same as any other department in your organization. IT needs to be treated the same way as your marketing. It needs to be treated the same way as your human resources, your accounting, your field, your warehouse, because IT requires, if you do not have a strategic plan for IT, you are not going to be able to have any control over where IT goes and how they will affect the organization. The involvement of personnel from all departments when you're making a strategic plan. If you're planning on doing something, you have to get the other departments involved. It may seem like they're throwing their 2 cents in, but you really need to get them involved because there will be little things in there that they might know that are going to change the dynamic of the IT department and how it's deployed. Planning. Obviously, the normal plans is identify your goals, allocate your budget, set benchmarks, determine cultural impact. This is huge in IT because one of the hardest things to do in a major IT change is work with your employees on change management. Most people are change adverse. It's human nature. What you have to do is try and mitigate that by having a plan for it. Training, having other departments get engaged, that gives them the buy-in, they understand what's going on, they get excited about it, they get involved. Determining the impact on personnel, that goes back to determining corporate culture. Diagrams, diagrams, diagrams. Pictures speak 1,000 words. We speak a weird language in IT. Pictures do the rest. So it's easy to translate something when you've got a picture. You have to involve the personnel from all departments. It's important to get all of the users engaged. All the way down to the single warehouse picker. Sometimes when implementing RF, what you think is a good pick path, for instance, in your warehouse, may not necessarily be the best one. Your warehouse manager, your warehouse supervisor, some of your warehouse employees, like your #1 picker. Your #1 picker is your #1 picker for a reason. That person, he or she, knows exactly how to get to that spot in the warehouse in the most effective way possible. That's why she's always or he's always the best. Accounting involvement. Counting in IT is, they always butt heads. Accounting thinks IT always spends money. IT always thinks that accounting doesn't want to spend any money and they don't care about the business moving forward. It is what it is. However, the accounting department is very important. The accounting department is going to provide the IT department with the budgets, the oversight, the fiscal benchmarking. That's important because IT can sometimes get a little mismanaged when it comes to budgeting because we're not accountants. Most of us are engineers or have science degrees. Human resources involvement. Realistic user policies. Realistic user policies are important to your organization because they give your organization the ability to control what users are doing. You need to make sure that they're legal, that you're not creating any kind of HR problem by implementing a user rights. At the end of the day, however, at the end of the day, the computers belong to you. They're just like your trucks for delivering product, or your cars for driving salesmen, or your laptops. Well, that's what we're talking about here. They are tools that belong to the organization. The organization is giving the user the privilege of using that equipment. Now there's something called allowing users to basically use their own equipment. It's bring your own BYO, bring your own device, BYD, bring your own device. That's where users are bringing in their own equipment, their own computers, and then you're giving them information. Well, there's a little bit of a gray area on the problem with that is you cannot force them to give you that equipment back at the end if you terminate them or if something goes wrong. That equipment is their property. Now you've got some legal gray area there, I think. And then again, let me put out there, I'm not an attorney. It's just, these are things you've got to think about. Realistic policies. Will users be able to use the equipment after training? Well, sometimes your user policies are actually worse on the organization than having no user policy at all. The user policy may actually directly affect the organization's ability to perform its tasks. I'll give you an example. If you block YouTube and the users have to look at YouTube for an instructional video, it's not going to work. They're not going to be able to do their job because it's blocked. Okay? You have to have acceptable turnover. Of course, some users don't take well to change. When you enforce rules, it happens. It's always best to basically lock down everything and then give stuff back, as opposed to give them everything and then take it away. Employee flexibility. Technology may close in one door and open another. In some situations, somebody's position may be replaced by technology, but there's this thing called the IT paradox, or the paradox of technology. And that is, for every bit of new technology, we had to create another position to support it. An example of that is an organization I worked for, we eliminated the need to print picking tickets because we went to an RF warehouse. Well, there was an employee whose whole job was to pull the pick tickets off the printers, sort them, and pass them to the picking department. That position was no longer necessary because of the guns. However, now we had a quality control issue because it was floating around, but instead of only being able to service 4 pickers, now she was able to service the 4 pickers, the 4 packers, and the 4 loading guys and receiving guys. So we're talking 16 people now, which in the past this particular person was only able to help 4. Executive engagement. It's important for executives to want to be involved in IT. If you don't know what your organization is doing, from an IT standpoint, it will get out of control. And then IT will always come to you and give you a great reason why it's not working, but your competitor, you talk to your competitor, he's like, I don't have a problem with this. He or she's like, no, this isn't an issue. That's what happens when you lose the engagement. When you don't be engaged with your IT, this is what can happen. Question the purpose and the reason for the new technology. Just because it's new doesn't mean you necessarily need it. During major software deployments, leadership should train and then train their subordinates. It's important for managers and operations managers, C-level people that are engaged in different departments to understand the data, understand the movement of the data, understand how the data affects the delivery of your product, or it's delivery of product. We're in the game of business. We deliver something for economic reward. All you've got to do is understand how it's done, and by teaching others, you actually are going to help yourself understand it. What causes an IT project to fail? Internal forces, non-IT causes, IT causes, external forces, regulatory, subcontractor driven. I want to talk a little about the IT causes the internal force problem, and it causes the issue to fail. Sometimes, one of the things that happens in IT right now, it's not as prevalent in the next generation, but in my generation and those just a tad bit older than I am, we spent most of our time being told in our youth that we were the smartest. We were so smart because we worked on computers. The problem with that is it creates a huge ego. And when you're dealing with that ego, sometimes as the person with the ego, you don't want to say, I don't know. So you always want to say yes, yes, yes. And the problem is you want to deliver that. The reality is you may not have the knowledge to do so. Sometimes that will actually cause a failure by not admitting that you don't know it and helping somebody get the right thing in the right place. The worst thing that's going to happen from that is the IT department's going to you're actually, as an IT professional, you damage your reputation. The external forces, of course, regulatory, subcontractor driven. Gosh, this PCI compliance is a constant regulatory agency that gets involved in your business, especially in e-business. But even without e-business, you may not have e-business, but if you take credit cards, you have to know about this compliance. This regulatory issue may actually change an entire direction of a project. It may change the scope to what such that it's so expensive to even continue the project. Non-IT driven. Unachievable goals from beginning, slippery slope, lack of proper training, fear of change. IT driven, I don't know, we talked about this. And the other one that's very important, there's only really two reasons IT causes a failure. It's I don't know, or I just don't want to do it. That's the only two reasons. Because if you admit to not knowing, then you'll find the right person, the project will get done. If you want to do it, you'll admit to the not knowing and the project will get done. IT as a practice, this is important. This is something that I believe to the core of my bones. IT needs to be treated like every other professional business. It needs to be treated as a practice. IT changes so drastically and so fast that you cannot keep up with it without actually constantly having to re-educate yourself. With at the university and involvement in the CIS course that I'm TA for and I'm instructing, I'm always learning something new from my students. I never ever stick to one curriculum. My curriculum changes every single year based on things that I've seen in my business. And that curriculum, I need to change it not only for the students but for myself. I need to keep up on that new stuff. Thank you for hearing my presentation. We'll be doing another one on the 9th. It will be focused on data network basics for executives. And if you're interested, please check out our link at goo.gl/gxffq. I will send that link. It will be attached at the bottom of the website here if you're interested in clicking and registering for one of these other meetings. Thank you very much, and have a good day.